Right, so let's get into game number 2 now. Unfortunately, the draft is almost over, which is a shame considering this is the most fun part, epic skill shot. If you watch this, please. Either way, they get the Lee Sin first pick because it didn't get banned away. They banned away Scouts LeBlanc instead, but that also gives them access to the Syndra. And the response was Olaf Ashe. They managed to get the Jace again. I think this is a big mistake, allowing this Jace to go over. It is responded, the Syndra is responding with the Azir, and we get a Braum pickup for R4. Now, in response, I mean, they're just looking at bot lanes right now. Aphelios is banned because they don't want to give it away. And, you know, they are into an Ashe. So, I mean, I'd love to see something like a Caitlyn, to be honest, but I really don't think it'll happen. The Varus is banned away as well. So, in terms of ADC pool, I'd like to see something like a Jinx here. Maybe they could go something like Jinx Thresh, and that'd be huge. Israel is okay as well. It does fit in with this poke comp that they also have with the Jace. I think having an ADC that will scale would just be much better here. I mean, he does do enough damage. The Karma pickup too, I mean, Karma is very, very strong right now if he does decide to lock it in. Also, Seraphine is a very good option here since it's a very hard counter to the Braum, and I think it just provides a little bit more. But he's going to go with the Alistair. He is going to play for that 3v3. But that's completely fine. Now, for the side of WE, all they really need is a top laner. Now, something like the Kennen might actually be okay into the Jace or the Gangplank. Like, I think the Gangplank is basically their only real bargaining chip right now. I mean, they are losing some AD damage out of the Ashe. If Olaf doesn't get ahead, he's really not going to be enough to be a secondary kind of AD damage dealer. They are opting for the Wukong, which I think the GP is just infinitely better in this situation. But, you know, I can see why they might want to go with it. They want to try and fight Jace early. Now, the problem is we'll see what they do since Wukong actually doesn't beat Jace in an early fight due to the fact that if Jace spaces properly inside of his wave, then he won't manage to get it off. So, you know, we'll see what they decide to actually do here. But yeah, overall, so we see this early aggression on Flandre top. He should just potentially flash out of this, to be honest. Like, now it's too late because now you give the Olaf the chance to kind of chase you down. Now, fortunately, he does have his base gate, so he can actually get away from that. But the problem with Olaf is if he lands that initial Q, then he's going to do a lot because he can chase you down very easily due to the fact of how heavily you get slowed. So, right, so now we're going to see in the terms of kind of where people decide to path. So Olaf is going to path equally to the Lee Sin. Olaf does have a massive amount. Oh, they're going to potentially look to late invade, actually. So the Lee Sin is just going to path straight up to his top side. And he's just going to play around that. They are going to get information on where he is, and Olaf is going to get his red buff. But what Lee Sin can do here is he can take his blue, walk to the... Oh, he's actually just going to go straight to the red. This is very risky considering the amount of fights that actually went on in this top side. Now, Olaf does get his entire jungle. Lee Sin will trade it top. And this is kind of bad for the side of WE, though, because Lee Sin is now split map against a Wukong, which, you know, means that Jace is already enough to kill Wukong if he plays it properly. And now, on top of that, bot lane is an Ezreal Alistair, which means Lee Sin didn't want to go towards that bot lane anyway. So he's very much free to just go into top side. We see Scout potentially moving instantly. Beisheng does get caught by the Lee Sin though, and he is just going to die considering Lee Sin gets the initial jump on him, and also Scout moved there first. So, you know, very, very bad play from the side of Beisheng, to be honest, trying to... I mean, early invading is great on Olaf, but he went too early, and, you know, he ended up splitting the map around a point that he didn't want to split, so... Very rough, like, it's... I don't know if it's tilt thing or what, but... The problem is, when you split the map... Okay, so we're going to get a replay, we'll go over this. So this was just kind of the Lee Sin got the red buff, and then Olaf came, he waited for his time because it's a case of who jumps on who first, manages to get the E off, and then Scout actually comes, manages to flash away from the Azir W so he takes no damage, and manages to get a QE off, which does end up stunning the Olaf. Now the problem is when you split the map, because obviously it's usually down here, when you split the map down here, this can be great if there's one lane that you want to isolate. So in this situation, what you have to do is you have to consider the advantages to actually splitting that map. So For example, if we split the map for Lee Sin towards its top side, then Jace gets a lot of pressure, which, considering he's against a Wukong, which Jace can already beat, that becomes a massive problem. Now, we have to think on the flip side, okay, well, if the Lee Sin gets a massive amount of pressure on top lane, what does Olaf get out of it? What was he thinking? Now, his initial thought would have been to try and invade Lee and kill him, but they had wards down, they knew that they were coming, so they couldn't really do that. Now, what ends up happening here is now they split the map around bot, which Olaf, great, he can focus bot, but how can Olaf ever focus an Ezreal out? He'll just E away, and before level 6 as well, if he does come into this bot lane, Alistair can just wait for him to run into him, and then just Q, knock him up, and then W away if he needs to. So it's just really, really rough, and this is a crucial mistake in the early game, and it just doesn't make sense. They don't have enough in bot lane with Ashe Braum to CC lock an Ezreal to stop its E, because even if, say, Ashe uses their ultimate later on, which is a possibility, if he E's as that ult hits, the E will still go through, so he still gets that distance. So it's just really bad. It's just really bad. It restricts the amount of opportunity that they have to jump on, and now EDG have probably one of the best junglers in the game right now, and one of the best top laners in the game, and Scout. So honestly, I'm thinking this is going to be a 20-25 minute win for the side of EDG, just because I really don't see how the side of WE are going to come back from falling behind this hard early, especially considering even like there is a mid lane who is looking to farm up and be ahead of Syndra. He's even right now because Syndra can just farm from range with her Qs. So we do see him try and get aggressive, which is fine. I do think this was a mistake from Scout due to the fact that the wave was coming back into him anyway. So, I mean, this goes to show that even pros, they will still make mistakes, So WE have Wukong, Olaf, Azir, Ashe, and Braum for the side of EDG. They have Jace, Lise. Oh. So we do see a dive on the bot lane now. Bastion comes in, but like I said before, Alistair, you just can't really dive in Alistair, and now Viper manages to get out. This is absolutely dreadful for the side of WE. Now, unfortunately, they do still go 1-for-1, but going 1-for-1 here and investing jungle resources there is terrible. Mako actually misses the W on the Ashe and ends up getting the Olaf instead. And now Olaf is going to try and run him down. He is going to take damage from the tower. We see the TP come in from Scout. Oh, is it from Scout? Oh, no, it's from Viper. Never mind. And he does manage to pick that kill up as well. So they end up going 2-for-2. Like, I just don't get it. I literally just don't get it. Like, this is not the WE that was playing before. As we see, like, they go for a tower dive on an Ezreal Alistair. Like, it's crazy. You just can't really do that. Maiko does manage to get a knock up onto missing, and then Beisheng just takes a ton of damage. Unfortunately, he doesn't manage to stay in the tower, but Ashe does take so much. We can see here Alistair is waiting on his WQ, but he actually uses it on the Olaf instead of the Ashe, and then that ends up getting him killed. Even if he would have got that WQ, Ashe had sub to 100 HP. So, his combo alone will do more than 100 HP. And now we can see that damage is coming out the Ezreal. And with that ultimate nearly halving the Ashe already, it's looking extremely bad for the side of WE now. I really don't know how they can bring it back. I think they're way too tilted in this position. I mean, the only way they bring it back here is if they manage to get some really, really good picks now with the Ashe ults and the Azir shuffles. I mean, Azir is one of them champions that his shuffle can basically change a game, and, it can bring him back, like, no matter what. I have a hair that I can see in my eye. Sorry. So, overall, Scout just comes clearing our vision. They don't need to force anything too hard, especially considering they are playing into an Olaf who is going to fall off and has not done anywhere near as much in this early game as you would like to see out of him. So, So, nice little poke. I mean, we're taking about 25% of the Wukong's HP with just one EQ as Jace now. So, I mean, at this point, I mean, Lee Sin's got this Herald. Beishan got this Herald instantly, so maybe if he can look to do something. I think it's a big mistake that he managed to get it, but also I understand that GG isn't really pressured to get it due to the fact that their comp is actually very, very good right now. Like, their comp is all on style. Obviously, you do have a Lee Sin, which, you know, he isn't really a poke champion, but he is a very, very strong pick, which can get all their poke champions fed, and then he can just be kind of a tank later on into the game. Now, one of the biggest kind of things with this comp, though, is you have an Ezreal, a Syndra, and a Jace, which poke comps are very, very good. They're one of the longest standing kind of strategical comps in League of Legends. And this is because, to be honest, they're very hard to deal with, because when you have these champions like Syndra, Jace, Ezreal, they can poke you from so far away that unless this Azir gets a flank off, it's really not going to be able to function in this kind of team. And, you know, he's got his mercs now, just because if the Syndra does manage to get a stun on him, the Lee Sin will kill him. It works kind of the same way as the LeBlanc, even though it was banned. So, you know, I think Scout is, you know, just very, very good, and it's going to be very difficult for them to actually do much. GG does look to just see if he can walk towards bot. There is a ward there that will spot him, unfortunately. That ward spot is very, very good. The one just behind Dragon is extremely powerful due to the fact that, you know, it will spot somebody, and it will also stay out of the kind of range of both of the control ward spots that people put down. Unless you put a control ward inside the jungle just by red buff, just in this location here, just on the edge, this will actually spot it just about. But even then, if you put it like a little bit further down and this pink isn't in the exact right spot, which it usually will be in professional play, pink position is really, really important. But, you know, if, for example, they're playing against a J4, then what they might do is they might put it on the very edge here, just in case there's a ward in this river. Now, this is also very important, because this, you know, provides a lot for J4 if they do get that ward there. Obviously, you still can dodge it by using your EQ to get over the wall, and then just waiting on the cooldown. But we do see that the first time they actually get to walk inside the enemy jungle and try and punish them, Flandre doesn't decide to recall. GG is walking up into the jungle, though, so he might actually be able to come and catch the Olaf in the making. He doesn't. He just managed to get his Gromp. Now, Gromp is one of the highest XP camps for the speed it takes to take. So him getting that Gromp is actually quite annoying for Lee Sin, but it's not going to matter too much. He did close the gap to only 100 gold now, but we can see the Breathe is trying to push this wave in for some reason. Mako is here, but there is a ward there. Oh, this is dreadful. Oh, EDG, bless their heart. Like, now he's going to get dove in bot lane. Now, he can potentially deal with this. We have a TP coming in, but the Braum E does manage to block that damage from there. He does use his stopwatch to not take too much tower damage, but that one ward top lane was devastating for the side of EDG. Like, that's unlucky. That's very unfortunate that the top didn't feed them the information that there was a ward there. Okay, so we do see a TP come in behind from Flandre, and we do see another one come in from Scout as well. They're investing so much into this bot play. Why? Why? Why are they investing so much? It makes no sense. They've just invested 2 TPs into getting this bot tower. So this is kind of like the Chinese region coming out in the side of EDG right now. Like, they're willing to just burn resources. Like, they're willing to just absolutely burn all of their resources for no good reason. And this is devastating, because now they end up getting mid tower and they get nothing out of bot. Like, they didn't even get the tower. They committed so much to try and get first tower and they didn't even get it. One of the reasons behind this as well is because they committed 2 TPs into the bot lane with the 2 in the bot lane. There's actually 4 people around that tower. Now, every time you take a tower plating, it gets more resistances based on how many people are in the area. Actually, I'm not sure if that applies to bot lane. Pretty sure it does, though. Although the tower platings don't get... yeah, so it does, but the tower platings don't get fortified early in bot lane. So in mid and top, you do less damage to them kind of towers pre 5 minutes to stop kind of, you know, people just 5-man in a lane and just getting the first tower really quick and getting fed off it. So instead, there's a fortification bonus, which, you know, stops you from doing this. It still gets resistances though based on the amount of people around. Otherwise you would just see people get herald and rush bot over and over, which is also a play, especially if you have a Ziggs in the lane. So Flandre does get caught here. Yeah, I mean, he gets 4-man, don't get me wrong, but the catch is still not really good to see. So right now we do see WE get this herald. Now it is after 14 minutes, so it's not going to provide as much, and now this gives EDG the ability to go and lock down this bottom side of the map, which in my opinion is a really big mistake, considering there were also camps in the jungle for Beishang to take. So he committed so much to this. Maybe they're going to pop it here, get a tier 2, but Jace is going to be able to just clear these waves very easily. They're going to pop it and try for this tier 2, but again they're going to be sharing the gold, but Lee Sin can just go and get this dragon now. I mean, I can see that Beishang is trying everything he can, but I just don't think it's going to be enough in this game. I think he's a very talented jungler, to be honest, and I think Shanks is also a very good mid laner. The Ash arrow goes wide. Olaf does look to chase him down though, but he just can't get on top of them. They are just going to look to try and push this herald in and try and kind of see if it will hit the tower, but it's not. So GG does jump on top of Braum. Instant shield comes out there though. Man, I got hiccups. We do see the Muramana come out for the Ezreal though, fully stacked, which Ezreal is a champion that can stack it very easy. And you know, this is where Flandre just died. So does my chest. Why have I got hiccups, man? Join us on Facebook. Okay, if only. I wish it was live so I could join them on Facebook. I mean, they do manage to get this tower on top. I mean, Flandre gets a full goal from it as well, so he doesn't have to share it, whereas Bree did have to. Now the problem is here now, Bree is, you know, very far behind in terms of how his champ is supposed to work. Like, if Bree doesn't have enough damage to jump into the middle of the enemy team and disrupt them, then it just loses. And at this point as well, I really don't think that... So, I mean, that was nice as well. He pulled the cannon with his W into tower range so that he could just kill it quicker. But I don't think the compositional difference is going to allow WE to win this game anymore. I think the fact that you have such a big unit of poke on the side of EDG is going to defer from the amount that WE has now. One of the fundamental kind of concepts I stick to when it comes to this is the trifecta of poke, all in, and sustain. So there is actually a fight going on. So I mean, they do just try and fight for these camps, and GG is going to secure it though. Bit of a waste. Now what happens is with this trio, they kind of all complement each. Well, they don't complement each other. They work against each other, right? So if, say, for example, we're a poke comp, so we're the side of EDG, we will another fight going down. So L gets chunked massively by the Syndra. She's doing so much damage, you just cannot afford to get caught like that. Breeze does get caught by the Alistair WQ. He doesn't manage to W in time, and then he manages to get away. They are just trying to siege this bot tower. So I mean, to be honest, that they are trying to push the lead that they have, and they do have Ocean and Mountain, so they're a little bit tankier. But now we see a full stacked EDG roster here. They do manage to steal away the red. GG's gonna look to just maybe smite it if he can. They do manage to steal the red away. Very, very nice to see. They get it away from the Olaf, but they're just going to rotate straight into mid lane and try and siege this. Now, if they do manage to siege this, then the Azir can put his tower there, and it's going to be devastating for the side of EDG. But since nothing's going on, so what happens is we've got this comp is currently EDG's. Now, the reason why this comp hard wins in this situation is because if you're playing a poke comp, and this is WE's kind of composition, an all-in kind of style comp. You get an Ash Arrow, and you have the Olaf jump in, you have the Azir jump in, you have the Wukong jump in. Now the problem with this is the poke will beat an all-in comp due to the fact that if you're trying to all in, you need to be as much HP as possible so that you can all in and get the fight off. Now, as a poke comp, what you can do is you can poke them out so that they don't have the HP required in order to all in your team. So this is why poke will be all in. Now all in will also beat sustain. Now the reason why all in will beat sustain is because if you're kind of a sustain comp, you're looking for short trades over and over and over where you can fight and then you can back out and you can heal up and then you have a HP advantage over an enemy comp. Now the problem is with an all-in comp, they will jump on the kind of sustain unit users and they will kill them before they have time to heal up the rest of the team. Now this is one of the reasons why you don't see kind of enchanters played as much in the meta right now, even though they are very good, is because the amount of all-in picks that are very, very heavily meta right now. Enchanters you'll usually get in the bot lane, and they're going to be facing against the Leonas, the Broms, the Alistairs, the Trundles. Like there's so many, even things like Nautilus and even things like Malphite, who are kind of sleeper good. But we do see a team fight going down here. Now this is good for the side of WE, but as we can see here, this poke is coming out from the side of EDG, and now they can just keep poking them and running them down, and there's not really much they can do. Now this is, as we've been explaining, why this comp from the side of WE gets completely dominated by the comp from EDG, because look, they're just poking them out slowly and surely, and we've got that Jace EQ coming in. We've got Ezreal just poking out with Qs as well. If he manages to get a W, that's going to be huge, but as we can see here, Shank's getting chunked out massively by this Ezreal. So this is what I mean with these kind of styles of comps. I'll wait till the fights kind of die down to finish off that kind of bit of theory, but perfect timing for them to kind of have this fight, because you can see instantly now the purpose of the point I was making. And as we can see here, Breathe is jumping on the top of GG, but that's Lee Sin. He kicks him straight back in, instantly dies. Alistair can just peel him away as soon as he approaches them. So now they're going to get this dragon, which it is a cloud, so it's not really that big. It's not that big of a kind of objective for them to go for, since the soul isn't that amazing. But what we see here now is, so like I was saying, this is why a lot of these enchanters, even though they're good, like even things like the Nami and even things like Morg. Morg's very good, Nami, like there's so many. Seraphine is amazing. I actually think Sona's very good right now as well. Although she is very squishy, which again means that she's very hard to lane with. So you end up in this position where these sustain picks, Shanks gets completely one-shot here, like he's just out of position. So you get this opportunity where these kind of sustain picks can't really be taken as much because these all-in picks are too good. Now we also have sustain that will be poke. Now the reason why sustain will be poke, and if they would have chose maybe like a Soraka instead of the Braum, they would have been in a much better position, because what ends up happening in these situations is every time you try and poke someone, these sustain champions will just heal back up. And since sustain champions build so much haste for such a low gold cost in the bot lane, it means they can nullify a lot of the damage that these poke champions try and exert. Now, here we can see, you know, this fight, it just cuts down again. It's just very, very easy winning for the side of EDG, considering they poked out so much early. But this is kind of one of the big kind of things that I always follow when I'm kind of trying to evaluate team comps, because at a basic level it works. Now obviously there is examples where this doesn't work. So for example, this is also assuming that everybody is of equal skill level. Now if everybody is of equal skill level, then this will kind of hold very, very strong. Now what does happen is sometimes you have players like Scout, not against Shanks, but we'll see this at Worlds, where Scout will be in a comp where, for example, he will be against the Trifecta, but he will just be good enough that he'll know how to play when he gets into that situation. So we see another fight going down here. Mako does look like he's going to get caught. They don't have time to poke out here, so, you know, he does just get collapsed on, but we do see Syndra comes in. Jace is coming from the back. They are trying to heavily commit. Azir ult does come through and manages to catch out GG, but GG isn't their main damage source. That's not who they're trying to find, and this means that is kind of wasted a little bit. They are going to keep chasing out Elk. Ezreal is going to be able to just chase her down as well with his E. He's going to wait till he gets to the wall to E over for maximum distance, so there we go. Now, unfortunately, he does back out instantly since they are rotating up, but overall, this was a bad fight for the side of EDG due to the fact that, you know, they didn't give the fight long enough to play it out. They played it too quick, they got picked, and then that ended up with them losing quite a lot of the tempo that they had gained. So we can see so here obviously this is kind of the fight. It was very, very slow. I will just rewind it just because I wasn't paying full attention right there. So here we can see that we did have picks. So as soon as this Braum was picked, it was very, very difficult for them to do anything. And not Braum, sorry. As soon as the Alistar got picked, even though he's super, super tanky, he is taking the full brunt of what WE are pushing for here. Which, you know, makes it very, very rough. So, and then here we see the fight just kind of going down. So, overall, I mean, this fight was the one fight played bad by EDG. Mako did get caught for no good reason, and that, you know, resulted in that going down. So Viper here. You know, pretty impressive KDA. I mean, he is playing a lot of very long-range ADCs, but that's very heavy meta, so I mean, he's playing it pretty well. Now, it does seem like the game is very, very close and that WE is in a lead, but like I already said, the compositional difference is going to strangle them out way too much, especially when they go for this objective here, because they're going to walk up and they're going to be able to poke them out so much. Scout also has TP available. Viper uses ultimate to kind of check the HP of the Baron right now, and it's really not looking too good for the side of WE. EDG are getting flanked from behind though, and this is the only opportunity that Breeze really has to get on top of them. GG does spot him out though, and Scout is also there with his TP, so now they're in a position where they can just keep poking out. Beishang is too low with nothing to really heal off besides the Baron, which is not going to be worth him healing back off. So as we can see here, the Jace is just outputting so much damage in this team fight due to the fact that he is a heavy poke champion. Now we do see Beishang is recalling here, so this might be an opportunity for EDG to start this. Jace is just pushing down mid, but they're just going to go for the dragon and play it safe, I think, and they're just going to play around that. Like, there's not really a massive reason to force too hard due to the fact that, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but their comp really, really does make it hard. So, here we can see the poke, again, nearly halving Ashe with just a single EQ from the Jace. Why didn't they ban this champion away? it did so much in the first game, and now it's doing so much in this one as well. Like, it's a very interesting decision from the side of WE to not ban this champion away. So now we can see that they are trying to start this Baron again. I feel like they do realize that there's not really that much they can do. Jace is taking that dragon, and then this is going to mean that EDG are just going to slowly poke them out of here and potentially look for a steal. This is very, very close. GG does have his E, and Braum can cancel him, but the ultimate is gone from Braum. It's way too soon. Olaf does manage to get the Baron, and this makes it very, very... It's just not too great. There's no reason that Jace should have gone and done that dragon. Now, the Cloud Soul isn't going to be the end of the world. Now, obviously, if Ezreal uses ult and Elsa uses ult, it is going to help, but that movement speed bonus that you get is just not quite enough, especially when you're in a poke comp. If you're in kind of like an all-in comp that needs to try and kind of rotate around the map and getting into the kind of side lanes and push them out, then again, that would have been great, but so they're looking to keep pushing out here. This is, you know, I mean, the problem is, even if they do get this tower, they're not going to be able to restrict the side of EDG from actually farming here, purely for the fact that, you know, like, they can farm easily with range with Ezreal Qs, Syndra Qs. So it's not really like a big thing, but they are going to just push down with this Baron. Honestly, I think if EDG just survive this Baron push though, which again they do from range very safely, one of the big things as well, Syndra's damage will get reduced significantly due to the way that the Baron buffs the minions, but Ezreal's won't because it's physical damage, so you lose a lot of damage as a mage champion when the enemies get Baron, and that's one of the reasons why you really need to force things like Baron when you're against things like an Anivia or a Xerath, because they're just going to instantly clear the waves. We do see GG jump in, does get unpunished by the side of WE for positioning so terribly there, but they are just going to take away this red buff. Again, it's not going to matter too much. Look at that poke coming out from the Jace onto the Olaf. Jace is huge this game now. Honestly, Jace is one of the most oppressive top laners. He has a very strong early. He falls off, I guess, slightly towards the mid game while he's waiting for his Muramana to get stacked. But as soon as that Muramana is fully stacked and he gets it after his Eclipse, he just becomes so unbelievably strong. Especially if he goes to Rilda's next as well. And we can see that he's about 1,000 gold up on the Wukong, which isn't a massive amount, but again, Wukongs just really can't function in this game anymore, and this is a problem. The Wukong and the Olaf are just incapable of being able to function in this game, unless the Ashe or the Azir gets a really big ult. But how are you going to get an Azir shuffle on a Ezreal or a Syndra or, you know, a Jace? Like, the amount of movement speed Jace gets when he changes his guns alone gives him enough to actually escape, so all round, I mean, pretty controlled game, to be honest. I mean, the Jace did make a really big mistake going for the second dragon over the Baron, but I guess he did it as well due to the fact that they want to avoid them getting Elder as long as possible. Breathe does get poked, but still that amount of damage, that would have been applied to him if he didn't W, so half HP instantly, actually crazy amounts from the side of Scout right now. He's very, very huge. Obviously his KDA isn't as big as, for example, Viper's, but that's purely because Viper is playing champions that have a massive range and, you know, a bit more mobility. Obviously Varus doesn't, but Ezreal especially. And to be honest, I think Ezreal is one of the best ADCs in the game right now. The only problem with taking Ezreal is it kind of ints your draft a little bit due to the fact that you really need consistent AD damage from elsewhere on the map, due to the fact that, you know, Ezreal isn't enough on his own. In the early game he can be, because he has basically 2 basic attacks since his Q is on hit, so it works the same way as a basic almost. But overall, he's basically a lane bully and a safe lane bully at that. Obviously he does get beat by a lot of the bot laners, but it's kind of a case of with Ezreal, it doesn't matter if you get beat by, say, Aphelios later into the game, because You just have to not concede any pressure and give Aphelios any early kills, and in theory you've done your job. If the rest of your team then don't manage to use the fact that you're weak-sided in order to get a lead, then that's not a problem with you as the Ezreal, that's a problem with your team not being able to play with an Ezreal, which is also a really, really big issue in all stages of the game, in competitive, in solo queue. A lot of the times just people don't understand how to play with a champion, and this is why, even though champions can be completely broken on release, it's usually not recommended to play them in ranked, because you know, your team also don't know how to play with them, and you're not going to be comfortable enough on them either. But we do see a really big fight come in here, but this is going to be the problem with the side of WE. Look at the amount of poke coming in from the Jace and the Ezreal. Wukong does commit to it, but he's just jumping in the backline, and they're just going to space him massively and keep him. So this is what I mean. Like, they do manage to get that Cloud Drake, but this is just going to be the game over due to the fact that EDG managed to get off so much poke while they were doing this dragon that they're just going to be able to run them down very easily now. And this is where Lee Sin kind of comes in this comp, in the fact that he has enough mobility that he can stay on top of them. Now, it's very risky for them to go into kind of unwarded area, but Ezreal's just going to keep queuing this bush. Mako's going to walk in. Now, the ult does get blocked by the Braum E entirely, since it was the first ability that hit. Lee Sin does manage to get a Q on him, but very int of him to actually take that Q. He just needed to do it for the vision to allow the Jace to get a kill. And as we can see now, a really, really slow fight from the side of EDG will end up getting them this win. Ezreal does TP to this cannon just so that he can keep it alive for as long as possible, so that they can use it to help siege. The reason why this is also important, this was a terrible TP though. A terrible TP from the side of Flandre. That's embarrassingly bad. Like, TP allows the minions to be invincible on a siege. So wait for the minion to reach the tower and then TP to it. It's just, so negligent. It's just so, like, crazy, man. Like, I can't, it's just disgusting to see. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. They will still win the game off this, so just because, again, their comp is just way too good. So again, like I said, poke, all in, sustain, it's a trifecta. And if you play it properly, you will end up winning no matter how far ahead the enemy get. Now, Flandre, TP is awfully grief. So now we're going to go on to the third game, but let's just quickly evaluate kind of how everybody did. So for the side of WE, they had the Wukong, which, again, I'm not going to give Wukong red due to the fact that, honestly, the fact that his coach drafted him Wukong here, considering it was an R5 pick, is completely grief. Considering when you're playing Wukong, you want to look for a very early aggressive level 1 with his armor pen in order to win that fight, which you cannot do into a Jace, because Jace does more damage early due to the fact he has 6 abilities. So it's just completely grief that he ended up in this situation. The Azir kind of grief though, like, I'm going to give Azir red. That was, I mean, he kind of grief. Ashe actually did well. Ashe is getting completely gatekept in this game, like, holy. Braum did okay, but nothing crazy. I think the Jace was huge. I might actually give Jace MVP here. Oh, wait, it's the wrong way around. Wait. I just didn't change the Olaf, 1 sec. So I'm just filling out the spreadsheet, and then we will go into the next game. So Scout was on Syndra. I mean, Scout did do very well, don't get me wrong, but and to be fair, Lee Sin actually did okay too. I mean, he was a bit more supportive, but Lee Sin in this kind of situation is just there to be kind of like this early game pressure. And if you can be enough early game pressure, then that can allow them to get to this point where they have a massively outscaling kind of poke comp. So let's go into game 3 now. I'll close the YouTube recording.